Alright guys, welcome to the next video, and in this video I'm going to be talking about returning the beginning color of a string. And this here is a coding interview assignment, so let's jump right into it. Alright, so here's the assignment here. Given a string, if the string begins with red or blue, return that color string. Otherwise, return the empty string. So, it basically goes like this. Let's say we have a method that is called ccolor, and we pass in a string. Now what we want to do is check and see if the string begins with the word red or blue. If it begins with red, we want to return red. If it doesn't begin with red or blue, we simply return an empty string. For this third example that we have here, blue times, you see the string begins with the word blue, so we want to return blue. So we're only checking for if this word begins with the strings red or blue. So I wanted to just show you how to go about coding that. So let's jump right into the code. Alright guys, so welcome to the coding portion of this interview. And basically what we're going to be doing is pretty much just we're going to be going about figuring out how to code this. So as you know, this is the problem here. We're given a string, and if the string begins with red or blue, then we want to return that color string. Otherwise, we want to return an empty string. Just like you saw in my presentation, we have a method called ccolor. We're going to pass in a string, and if the first part of this string is red, then we want to simply just return the string red. Another thing is that if we have a method called ccolor, we pass in another string, and the first part of this string is not red or blue, then we don't want to return anything. If we have a string and the first part of the string, or the string begins with the word blue, we want to simply return blue. And that's all there is to it. So what we're going to do now is basically just jump right into the code. So the first thing that we need to do is to actually create ourselves a method, and this method is going to go public static void ccolor, and then obviously we're going to have ourselves a parameter here, string my string. But let me zoom this in for you guys. Alright, so you guys can see it better. Alright, so we have our method here. Alright, ccolor. Now, when you get a question like this shouldn't be a very difficult question. You know, if you get it during the interview, don't be nervous or anything like that. You just have to take in the question and just pretty much break it down based on what's presented to you. If it's easier, just take it part by part. So basically, we know we're going to be given a string, which is what we have here as a parameter. We're going to be given a string, and if the string begins with red or blue, then we want to return that color string. So let's take this part now, this part of the problem. So the first thing that we need to do is create ourselves an if conditional statement, because we're going to be checking if the beginning of the string is red or blue. First of all, let's create a condition that checks for if the beginning of the string is red. So we just want to go if my string dot length is greater than or equal to 3, and before we add the other part of this conditional statement, I wanted to go over what I'm doing in this first half. So basically what I'm saying is, if the string that's passed in has a length that is greater than or equal to 0, then this is basically saying that the first part of the string might be the string red. It might be. So let's just say we're given a string, and the string only contained 3 letters. So basically what this is checking for is the length of the string that is passed in. So it's basically saying if my string.length is greater than or equal to 3, then it might be read, but we need to add this other part of the conditional statement to check to see if it's actually read. So we just want to go my string dot substring 0, 3 dot equals read. Then we're simply just going to go sys out read. All right. Checking for read. All right, so I think this is pretty straightforward. I think you guys understand what's going on here. So basically, if the string dot length is greater than or equal to 3, and the substring from 0 to 3 is equal to read, then that basically means that the string that is passed in begins with the word read. All right. So the only thing that we need to do now is do the same thing for blue. So we just want to go else if my string dot length is greater than or equal to 4, and my string dot substring 0, 4 dot equals blue. Sys out, and I just want to print out blue. So just like we were talking about when we're checking red, we just want to do the same thing for blue. Since blue has 4 letters, we're going to check and see if the length of the string passed in has a length of 4 that is greater than or equal to 4. And we also want to check the substring from 0 to 4. And we want to check and see if this is blue. All right. And then one last thing. So basically, after we check this, we basically have just finished checking if the string begins with red or blue. Then we're going to return that color string. Otherwise, simply return an empty string. So if we pass in a string and the beginning of that string is not either red or blue, we want to just simply return an empty string. Else, sys out, empty string. Just like that. And that's pretty much it. The only thing that we need to do now is simply just call the method. So C color, and then we want to pass in these values, red, XX. Now what do you think we should get? We should just get this return, which is red. Go down here, we get red. Now let's test out these other strings here. So for this string, I think you know what's going to be returned. An empty string will be returned, since the string that's passed in does not begin with red or blue. Let's run it. Nothing is returned. Empty string. See? Nothing is returned. Okay. Now, let's test this out. Blue times. Alright, so we have blue times here, and the first part of the string begins with blue. So we should have blue returned. Run it. Blue is returned, as you can see here in the console. And that's pretty much it. That's how you'll go about writing the code to solve this particular problem. So if you ever get this on an interview, you know exactly what to do. And that's pretty much it. Alright guys, so in this part of the video, I wanted to talk a little bit about built-in functions. I know that sometimes when you're on interviews, the person interviewing you does tell you to go a little bit deeper when it comes to solving an issue. So just imagine you're in an interview, they tell you to write code to solve a specific problem that they have. You end up solving it correctly, and you know you solved it correctly, but then what they want to do is determine how deep your knowledge goes when it comes to understanding what's actually going on. So I noticed that in my comment section, some people were talking about um, writing, well, they were talking about not using built-in functions and actually writing the function out. So in this part of the video, I just wanted to break down this built-in function here, this substring, and I wanted to actually just show you how to execute this functionality without using built-in functions. So we're actually going to write this method out right now. So let's jump right into it. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is go down here and just create our method. And the method is going to be called getSubstring. So public, let me zoom this in for you guys once again. Alright, so public static string getSubstring, and then in this method there are going to be 3 parameters. Now the 3 parameters are basically just going to be the string, the starting point, and the end point. So let's pass those in. The string, start position, end position. And we know we're going to be returning a string, and we're eventually going to do that. Alright. So when it comes to this method here, we know that we want to grab a portion of this string. And I'm not sure if I talked about what substring is. I think you guys understand what substring is all about. It's basically just about grabbing a range of characters within a string. That's pretty much what it is. So basically what we're going to be doing here, we're going to be taking in a string, which is a string that we're going to pass in. We're going to be also taking in a start position as well as the end position. Alright, so let's continue with this. The first thing that we want to do is create ourselves a variable. And we want to name this variable new string, because this is basically going to be the variable that's going to be returned after we're finished grabbing a particular range of characters based on the input that's passed in here and here. Alright. The next thing that we want to do is have ourselves an if conditional statement. So this would go if start position is greater than or equal to 0, and what I want to do here is actually separate this, because I want to make sure that these conditionals are separated. So before we even continue, let's start off with this. So I have this if conditional and I pass this in. Okay, so what does this mean? This basically means that if the start position is greater than or equal to 0, then I want something to happen. So this basically means if the start position that the user passed, you know what, before we even get to that, let's just write out the entire query. It'll make a whole lot more sense. And start position is lesser than end position, and end position is lesser than or equal to the string dot length. All right. So let's break this down. All right. So as you can see here, I have myself an if conditional statement, and I'm checking for all of these. This condition, as well as this condition. All right. So basically, if all these conditions are met, then the user can actually perform a grabbing of the characters, or they can actually get a they can start getting their substring. So all this is basically just for validation. So the starting position has to be greater than or equal to 0. So if you pass in a string, the starting position has to be greater than or equal to 0. There can be no negative values, is basically what that means, because it really wouldn't make sense to start at a position before the first character within a string. So we basically just want to have the check for that. Another thing is that when we enter in a start position, we want to make sure that the start position is lesser than the end position here. Because if it wasn't lesser than the end position, then it would kind of defeat the purpose of naming it start position, you know, if it comes after the end position. So we want to make sure that the start position that they enter in is lesser than the end position that they enter in. And another thing that we want to check for is that the end position is lesser than or equal to the string dot length. So basically what this means is that the end position that the user has to either be the end of the string position, or it has to be less than that. You would never want this end position to go beyond the end of the string, because that would pretty much throw an exception. Because why would you want to enter in a position of the string that goes beyond the actual string? You know, that would be an error. It wouldn't make sense to do that. All right. So after we do that, we actually want to start our for loop, which would go in here. So we'll just go for int I equals start position. I is lesser than end position I plus plus. All right, let's break down what's going on here. So what we want to do when all these conditions are met is that we want to start iterating through the string based on the start and end position. So let's say all these conditions are met. It satisfies the numbers that the user has passed in satisfies each one of these conditions. We then want to loop through the string that is passed in, and basically we want to grab the position. You know, so I guess basically we're just looping through, you know, this position. So you know how usually whenever you have a loop and you're iterating through a string, or you're iterating through a list, you start off with 0. Right here, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be starting off with whatever number that the user passes in, and the loop is going to end at whatever the number the user passes in for that end position. All right, hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Now what we want to do next is take our new string, because after this loop is completed, we're going to have a new string that's passed into here. All right, we're going to have a new string based on all of these parameters that's passed in. We're going to have a string, starting position, and the end position. And the start position and end position is going to determine what the new string is going to be. So we just want to go new string, and then we want to go plus equals the string dot char at I, and then After this, we just simply want to go return new string. All right. So before we move forward, let's explain what's going on here. So with this new string, what's happening is that I'm appending the new character to the string based on the loop, based on the two positions that are passed in. So basically what's going to happen on that first iteration is going to take the character at a specific position of this string. So we're taking the string and we're saying chart at whatever number the user passes in for the start position. That's going to be on the first iteration. On the next iteration, what's going to happen is that we're going to increment by 1 until we get to this end position. And the end position will be the position of whatever the user has passed in. And then every loop, there's going to be a new letter appended to the string. So basically, that's what this plus equal is for. On each iteration, there's going to be a new character added to the string until we eventually make our way out of the loop, and then we're going to return that string. Now, after this, what we need to do is get ourselves an else. And then basically, we just want to return a string that says enter valid start and end position values. All right. So basically what this means is that if this condition is not met based on what the user passed in, or if all these conditions are not met based on what the user has passed in, we simply want to return enter a valid start and end position values. Because apparently they did something wrong that doesn't satisfy one of these conditions, and we're simply saying enter a valid start and end position value. And that's pretty much it when it comes to substrings. If you don't want to use this substring built-in method and you actually want to break it down to figure out exactly what's going on, this is exactly what's going on. If you just break down this logically, this is exactly what's going on within this method here. As I said, when it comes to these built-in methods, they have them. Java has it in there because it just makes life a whole lot easier. But if you wanted to figure out the actual functionality of how it works, this is basically how it works. That's pretty much it. Now, the only thing that we need to do to just validate that would just be to take this method, copy, and we want to remove all this here. We then want to pass in our string, my string, and then we want to do the same thing for this. And we should get the same functionality. As you can see, I'm no longer using that built-in method, and I'm using my own method that I just created here. So let's start off with the first test. Copy, and then I just want to pass this in, paste. So basically the substring method should pretty much perform the same. Red XX, we should only have the first part of the string return, which will be red. So we go up here, we run the application, go down to the console, we get red. We then want to try this out and make sure everything is working properly, just like before. Paste, save, and we don't run it. We shouldn't get anything back because the string does not begin with red or blue. We don't get anything back. We don't get anything back. All right, empty string. Now, copy this blue times. Pass this in here. And as you can already see, the string begins with the word blue, so blue should be returned. Run the application. That's exactly what we get, blue. And that's pretty much it. I just wanted to show you how to break down those built-in methods and exactly how they function. And that's pretty much it. I just want to show you guys that, since I did get some comments about it in some videos and just wanted to address it. Alright. Alright guys, so if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to like the video if you've learned something here. And also, don't forget to subscribe. And see you in the next one.